Guys, welcome to this video. My name is John Watts. I'm a consumer protection lawyer, and what we'll talk about in this video is the idea of damages, and specifically damages under the Fair Credit Reporting Act if you have errors that are not corrected, but you start off with bad credit. Okay, there's a lot of negative accounts. So let me break this out into a few sections here. So what I'm going to tell you is definitely different or contrary to what most lawyers who do the type of work that I do would tell you. What they would say, and there's some truth to this, that the most valuable cases are when you have somebody with perfect credit and they have an error, and that error lowers their score, and then we get to say, hey, this person was perfect and you have this blemish on their credit report they don't deserve, and so this is worth a lot of money. And maybe they lost a job, a security clearance, a mortgage. And those cases certainly have a lot of value. I'm not downplaying that. But there's a tendency among lawyers who do what I do to say, but if somebody has a dozen negative accounts, even if there are errors, that's meaningless. It doesn't matter. That person wasn't really harmed. That, I think, is a terrible mistake. And I want to share a couple things with you, maybe some ideas, some illustrations. One is, I happen to be, as I'm recording this video, going through the book of Luke. And there's a story in Luke 21 about Jesus is watching people contribute money. And there are people who are very wealthy and they give a lot of money. And then he sees this widow and she gives just, it would be like, 50 cents or something. And he says she gave more, which is kind of a puzzling statement because, maybe the other people gave $500 or $5,000. She gave like 50 cents. And he says they gave out of their abundance, but she gave everything that she had. And so the idea is look at what she's left with at the end. And there's a trial lawyer who's been gone now for about 45 years named Mo Levine. And he had an expression, just a brilliant expression, that says it's not what they took from you, it's what they left. So traditionally in personal injury cases, and in my career, we've handled slip and fall and wrongful death and truck wreck cases, all these different types of cases. We would say, well, hey, I broke my arm. And so what's that arm worth? Because I lost the use of that arm. Or I lost these wages. Well, Mo Levine said, don't think of it that way. Think about what is left. Okay, so here's the example that, as I recall, he gave. He said, let's say that you have $1 million. And I take 500,000. I steal 500,000 from you. Well, that's a tremendous loss, right? I took 500 grand from you. But truthfully, you're still left with $500,000. So you're okay. What if you have $1 and I take the $1 that you have? Now, if you compare those, the first example, I took 500,000. Second example, I stole $1. There's no comparison. But if you shift your thinking and think about, well, what was left? The first example, you still have 5 million. The second example, you have nothing. Okay. So maybe more graphically in a personal injury, if I've got two arms and you do something that's negligent and I lose this arm, well, I lost an arm. That's terrible. I still have one arm left. But what if I was born with only one arm? And through your negligence, you take that arm. Now you've left me with nothing. It's still one arm has been lost, but it's a tremendously different situation. So let's think about that under the Fair Credit Reporting Act. If you have 6 accounts, a dozen negative accounts, charge-offs, collections, and you go through there and point out all the errors, and the credit bureau goes, we don't care. We're not fixing that. You're unimportant to us. And then you sue, and what they'll say to your lawyers, what they always say to me, they go, John, your client had terrible credit. I mean, they couldn't have been damaged, right? Because this is what lawyers who do what I do, this is what we think. We go, hey, I want the person with perfect credit who had one false thing on there, and that lowered their score a bunch of points. And see, they're a perfect client. I suggest to you that's not the only way to think about this. Instead, think about somebody that has a bunch of negative accounts and those should come off because of errors, but they don't. well, that person has less room to sort of fall down. Just like the person that had $1 that I stole is in a lot worse position than the person I stole $500,000 from. So it's not what was taken, it's what you're left with. And if you are just barely above the bottom on your credit score and somebody does something that makes that even worse, even though it might only be a point or two on your credit score, that's so much more damaging than somebody who had, a 790 credit score and now they have a 770 or 760 or 750. So it's not just what was taken, it's what's left. The final example I'll give you, and this is from many years ago, I did nursing home cases. Had a lawyer, it was a wrongful death case. They dropped my client and then she died, okay? And they were negligent in dropping her. And so we sue, and the lawyer calls me, and it's like he made this tremendous discovery, earth-shattering discovery. He said, John, I looked at your client's medical records. They were in terrible shape. They had all sorts of health problems. And so I don't see how you can be awarded any money in this. First of all, it's not the law in Alabama, but put that aside. I remember what I said to him is I'm like, are you serious? They were in terrible shape. I thought they were like an Olympic athlete. I mean, who knew if you were in a nursing home, you would be in bad shape? And I'm like, of course they were in bad shape. That's why you have to protect them. That's why you have to use proper care and not drop somebody. If you drop me, at the time I was like 28 years old, you drop me onto a bed or a floor, it might hurt, I might break something. I'm not going to die. But you take a 90-year-old in terrible health condition and you drop them on the floor, yeah, no surprise, they're going to die. So I hope that this is helpful to you just to think through that you may be in a situation where you have terrible credit, okay, all sorts of negative items. But if there are errors and those errors don't get fixed, don't let anybody tell you that that's worth nothing. Now, every case is different. We have to evaluate cases. There's strategies, how to determine the value, what's the proper approach to maybe this amount to settle early, this amount to settle later on. But just understand that if somebody says, well, it's impossible for you to have been hurt because you have all sorts of problems, then I'm the perfect person to get damages because I was in such a bad shape and you took away from me and left me with nothing. So hope that's helpful to you. I know it's a little bit of a rant here on a Friday night, but hope you found some value in this, and I will catch you guys later. Have a good one. Bye-bye.